The 2023 F1 season is crazy without Red Bull. I'm just going to say a disclaimer right at the top of the show. We commend Red Bull's achievements. What an amazing win streak that they're on. But that doesn't mean we can't imagine life without them just for one episode. Maybe two.
Exactly. It's just a bit of fun. I'm a Max Verstappen fan, so don't...
Are you, Tommy, though? I want to question it. How dare you root for anyone else? You have to be...
Woo! I'm waving.
Audio listeners, he's waving a Lewis Hamilton flag. Yeah, we've absolutely outed him. Right, let's begin with starting with a question from Ulis Rokas. Do you agree with Hamilton's take that without Red Bull, the championship would be super hype? Yes.
Spoiler alert.
We constantly talk about how the fight for P2 is chopping and changing left, right, and centre. You've had Aston Martin second fastest. Sometimes, even knocking on the door of Red Bull at the start of the year. Then you had Ferrari. Then you had Mercedes, McLaren popping out of nowhere. You know the headlines would be, can McLaren mount a championship comeback in the second half of the year? Don't think so after Spa, but all of these storylines would be flying off the shelves. Let's dive into it right now. Starting with the Bahrain Grand Prix. We're going to go through it moment by moment. Charles Leclerc would lead from pole. And that is a great start to this scenario, isn't it? It's a great start to imagining what life would have been like.
I know.
Later on, he DNF'd, which would have been from the lead, which would have been very depressing. You would then have had Alonso with that poor start, dropping back, but then fighting back with Hamilton and Sainz, pulling off the most miraculous move you've ever seen in that double left-hander on Hamilton. And it would have just been hype McGee.
This is something that will happen throughout this entire podcast, but it is funny how races where you're just kind of like, don't get me wrong, we still all love a fight for the midfield positions or the topper points, but when it's for the lead, it's so much more spectacular, and it just show that when it's for the lead, the storylines of this season would be absolutely insane. And yeah, that Alonso move, fighting back through the field, passing Hamilton in that way, would have been Alonso fighting through the field to win, insane.
To take his 33rd race win, and he would have done so after, as I say, Charles Leclerc retiring from the lead. Can you imagine?
Your Twitch reaction.
Can you imagine?
We'd have broken a Twitch
I would
record.
Have reacted. I would have thrown my chair out the window. And it would have been an Alonso Sainz Hamilton podium. But the biggest story, I think, of anything there, Logie Bear, with his picnic baskets, would have got a point in P10.
Absolutely. Yeah, Logie Bear getting a point on the board straight away.
I do love, by the way, that we're just kind of going down the route of Red Bull literally not existing, as opposed to being a midfield team and beating Logie Sarge to P10.
Yeah, exactly.
Verstappen and Perez don't exist. It's an 18-car field now.
Yeah, and obviously just to cover the comments, it will be you can never predict how different things will play out. So this is literally just removing them from the race, and then of course, say when Verstappen had a problem with Russell or whatever, that wouldn't have happened, but just for the sake of ease, and obviously it's all hypothetical, they're just not in, and we've bumped everyone up.
So well done, Fernando Alonso, on winning the first race of the season. I can just imagine Tom Bellingham on the podcast. You can imagine what that might have been. He would have been absolutely losing his mind, wouldn't you, mate?
I would. And it would have been my birthday as well. What a dream.
Jeez. This video is sponsored by HelloFresh, and I'm absolutely buzzing to be partnering with HelloFresh because I have used these for years. Because, Tommy, I am an incredibly lazy man, and the convenience that these amazing people at HelloFresh produce is something that I dream of. To have pre-portioned ingredients and doorstep delivery. They literally give you the box and go, there you go, there's 3, 4, 5 meals, however many you want to choose.
It's great value because you're only using what you need for the set meals, so it's great for like not having any food waste either.
And you can select as well, can't you, from the portions? You can have 2, 3, 4 people. You can use a friendly app as well, which allows for meal selection and delivery management easy. I actually love just going through the app and the difference in meals as well each week. You just go, actually, no, yeah, I fancy a bit of that this week. Lovely. The amount of choice is unbelievable.
It is. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. As a vegetarian, they've got some very good options as well, which I like a lot.
So what are you waiting for? Click our link and use our exclusive discount code today to get 60% off your first box and 25% off your next 2 months. Get involved. We now go to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, where once again Tommy's losing his mind right now. Fernando Alonso's on pole, but he would have been out of his grid spot and given a penalty. But he would have still gone on to win, and then we would have actually been saying that this season is actually not very good at all, and it's just a Fernando Alonso domination.
If you remember, the Alonso incident was actually where he came into the pits and the team touched his car too early with the 5-second penalty. And that would have happened where we'd have got, at the end of the race, Alonso would have won again, then we'd have found out that Russell actually won, and then they'd have protested it, and had it overturned. So, yeah, changed. It would have been a change for the win.
X would have been like then.
The controversy of that, if it had been for the win, it would have been a lot more spicy, wouldn't it? And instead, it was just kind of like, oh, Alonso's got the place back.
We now go to the Australian Grand Prix after an Alonso-Russell-Hamilton podium at Saudi, where Russell leads a Mercedes 1-2 after starting on pole, but then catastrophe strikes when Russell has an engine failure while in contention for the win.
Yeah, that would have been, again, like, it's all these little dramas of the season that are like, oh, that's a little, and there's a lot of these throughout this way, kind of like, oh, that's a bit crazy. But when it's affecting the championship and the lead and things like that, like the storylines would be insane, like you said.
It certainly would. And of course, we had that insane restart chaos thing where no one had grip. And that would have been Alonso being punted by Sainz. But what position would that have been for, Tommy?
That would have been probably, I think, second place, maybe. Hulkenberg would have been third. Imagine how much I'd have gone absolutely insane for that. Hulkenberg's third. And he'd have been, well, yeah, he'd have been in the podium spot. They'd have red flagged the race and then he'd have lost it. Imagine the pain of that happening.
So now I understand. You're actually a Nico Hulkenberg hater, and you just wanted to just take away that podium in this hypothetical scenario.
Yeah.
But yes, Hamilton would have won that Australian Grand Prix ahead of Alonso, and Lance Stroll would have somehow managed to get a podium finish despite ending up in the gravel before that red flag, I guess, countback that we call it. Hulkenberg would have finished P5, which would have been an amazing scene. And then the championship standings after the Australian Grand Prix would have been Alonso on 69 points. Nice. Then you had Lewis Hamilton, 55, and then Sainz, 32. So right now, 3 races in, you can see the headlines. Alonso versus Hamilton. The two titans. Who will Hamilton get his 8th? Will Alonso get his 3rd? Oh my God. You can see it now. You really can.
Yeah, wild that those two would be locked in a title fight, and they are very much locked in.
Have all of these included the fastest lap points as well?
Yes, they have.
Wow, and come on, that's unbelievable from you. Okay, cool. So that is how the championship stands going into Azerbaijan. 14 points between Alonso and Hamilton, and this is where I come into my own. This is where Baku, all of a sudden, this is where I start to get a bit of momentum. Ferrari, are they back? Because, of course, Leclerc, we don't even need to delete Red Bull. He takes pole in both the sprint and the real race because he is the GOAT. It doesn't matter. Real life. Leclerc then manages to convert a sprint win ahead of Russell and Sainz, and then goes on to win the Azerbaijan Grand Prix as well. Back-to-back little victories, a full points haul.
What a finish it would have been, because Alonso was less than a second. He was slipstreaming Leclerc to the line.
Yeah, well, no, but what I would say there, Tommy, is that Leclerc had a lot in the bag. And, I know that we're going like for like, and, it's just Red Bull. No, this is one point where I'll step in and go Leclerc at least 10 seconds more race pace there to really extend that advantage. I'm obviously joking.
And Sainz P3, again, like, it's insane. I feel like Sainz on the podium every race in this scenario. It's really weird. And he's not got a podium this year.
Okay, we now go to the Miami Grand Prix. We get back to, again, Fernando Alonso. He's back again.
Boring.
He wins comfortably ahead of George Russell and Carlos Sainz. We're then questioning, is this Aston Martin dominance good for the sport? Have they spent £5 billion? We lived and breathed Fernando Alonso winning lots of races. So Alonso, as I say, ahead of Russell and Sainz. Tsunoda finishes 9th, which would have been his 5th consecutive points finish.
Should have been in the points every race.
Because he loves an 11th place, doesn't he?
Oh no, bless him.
And then as the title stands after Miami, again, Alonso dominating. 118 points, plays Hamilton's 83. And Carlos Sainz is just currently sitting there in 3rd place, 68 points.
Sainz loving it, like bagging all the podiums.
We now go to the Monaco Grand Prix, and this is where we really start to question what's going on. Because Alonso would have had a lights to flag victory to extend his title lead.
So boring, isn't it?
I mean, to be fair to you, mate, at this point I am getting bored. Like what is this trying to say? Everyone listening is going, but you said this was crazy. But don't worry, Aston fall off, as we know. But he, at this point, extends his title lead on Hamilton. Esteban Ocon has an amazing P2 ahead of Hamilton in P3, which then leaves the championship standings. Alonso 143, Hamilton 99, Sainz 74, and Russell 74. Still not seeing Leclerc in this. And we would have been there as well. Actually, no, we wouldn't, because we were on the Red Bull Energy Station.
Yeah,
which
so
doesn't
Red Bull
exist,
don't
so we would
exist.
have drowned and died.
Oh no. Dare I say this is like the race that actually could potentially be more boring than the IRL one, because you don't have a fight between Alonso and Verstappen, and there's not the jeopardy, and Alonso just takes a boring win, and because he'd have won pretty much all the races, we'd have been like, oh, okay, cool, Alonso's won.
So yeah, interesting stuff. And then we have the Spanish Grand Prix up next, and Carlos Sainz would have taken a miraculous pole position ahead of Lando Norris and Pierre Gasly.
What a top 3 that is.
That is a very good top 3. However, no conversion, as Hamilton would have had a comfortable win and securing a Mercedes 1-2 with Russell in P2.
And another podium for Sainz. He's not had any, and he's had one in, I think, every race bar 2 so far, which shows that, he was bagging consistent points with like P4s and P5s at the start of the year.
Still not seeing Leclerc anywhere.
Yeah, he's still not there.
That's really quite depressing. Of course, that's 28 points. Hamilton is behind Alonso now, so nearly within a race win. So lots of hype going into the Canadian Grand Prix. Nico Hulkenberg would have been on pole, which I think is absolutely worth all of our imagination that we've been using to really sort of generate this as a real thing.
And then he'd have lost it with a grid drop.
Oh yeah, maybe not that part. A Haas pole, but not a pole, because as everyone knows, if you don't start from pole, it's not a pole position. Okay, it does not go down as a pole statistic. Charles Leclerc has 20 poles. Okay, thank you very much. Obviously, Nico not starting from the front. It was Hamilton who would then take the lead from Alonso off the start. Oh my God, the scenes! The 2 title rivals going side by side. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that. But then Alonso gets it right back from him during the race and takes the win away from Lewis Hamilton. Oh my God, the scenes.
Hamilton and Alonso, like locked in a title battle. Seemed to be fighting around the leading positions every race. Hanging on to the back of that fight would have been George Russell, who slammed it into the wall, and he would have been in a podium shot.
But then, that's a big move, because Charles Leclerc gets himself on the podium to join Alonso and Hamilton, and all of a sudden I'm wondering, is it championship back on for Ferrari?
Well, spoiler alert. Yes, because it's
a
sprint weekend, and we know how much Ferrari love a sprint weekend.
Come on then, let's go to the Austrian Grand Prix. Oh yeah, top 3 in the sprint would have been Sainz, Stroll and Alonso, because Leclerc was reasonably washed, I remember in that.
That's just reminded me actually that I've not put in the sheet that in the sprint that would have meant that Hulkenberg would have led at the start, because he was second, wasn't he? So exciting times.
The main race, Charles Leclerc domination. And this is where I would have been arguing domination is good when it's Charles Leclerc at the front. I'm obviously kidding, but he would have won that race in Austria ahead of Norris and Alonso, with Lewis Hamilton, our nearest championship rival to Alonso, only managing P6, which then meant that Alonso, almost 2 wins clear again, of Hamilton in the title.
Looking like Alonso quite clear in the title and Hamilton's dropping back. But then we get to the twist. The British Grand Prix.
Twisty Poo McGee. Here we go. The British Grand Prix. And McLaren come out of nowhere. McLaren front row. Lando Norris on pole ahead of Oscar Piastri. We're all going, where the hell has this come from? Is it too late? Are McLaren back after being gone for quite some time, as opposed to Ferrari being back, potentially a little bit last year? The mid-race safety car comes out, puts Hamilton P2 behind Norris, and they have two Brits, a battle side by side for the victory at Silverstone. My goodness me, that would be a clip played for 100 years.
I think it would be a race that would be remembered for 100 years. It would be one of the most iconic British Grand Prix ever.
Unbelievable. With Fernando Alonso only managing 5th, the podium would have been Norris, of course, taking the victory ahead of Hamilton. Then Piastri gets his podium. Come on! Which, of course, helps Hamilton to close the gap, finishing ahead of Alonso. But the most important thing, once again, Logie Sarge, points. P6 and P9 for Williams.
Yeah, Norris taking his first win at Silverstone. What scene?
The scenes of that would have been unbelievable. Max Verstappen, why'd you ruin everything? I'm joking. Max, you're doing great. Hungarian Grand Prix now, and Hamilton takes pole. Well, he took pole. That's real. That's real as well.
Yeah, it's
all right,
real.
Let's accept that was real. That happened.
The real thing counter in the videos ticked over to 3.
3, yeah. Hamilton taking pole from Lando Norris in the second row. Piastri and Zhou. Norris, again, beating Hamilton to victory with Oscar Piastri picking up a nice little P3. And that would mean the title leader Alonso finishing 7th and Aston Martin all of a sudden falling off the edge of a cliff and they're the 4th best car. Alonso narrowly above the race win. Actually, to be fair, race win and fastest lap, 26 points clear of Hamilton in the championship after the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Yeah, and I'd particularly be getting a bit nervous that, Aston Martin have fallen off a cliff, and is Alonso, after looking like he's going to dominate this championship, looking like the momentum's shifted. What a twist.
We now move into our final race of imagination and reflection, Belgian Grand Prix. And this is where, again, come into my own. Friday, Leclerc takes pole position for the main race. And then on Saturday, Oscar Piastri would have taken sprint pole and then won the sprint, which would have been a rather sensational moment, I believe, for Oscar and McLaren fans. Gasly would have finished P2, and Sainz, again, with a nice little P3, he just sneaks in every single time. And the title leader, Alonso, would have spun out the sprint, although would that have been a big thing? He would have been running down in about 15th anyway, or 14th, so It's not like it was a massive deal. But, of course, points missing for Alonso once again. And then into the main race, Charles Leclerc wins. Holds off Hamilton to win from pole. Hamilton gets the fastest lap point, and Alonso somehow manages to fraud his way to P3, which would have, again, that would have been a serious damage limitation headline.
Yeah, and of course, this is where the whole thing comes into a bit of jeopardy, because obviously Hamilton would have got a penalty for crashing into an imaginary Sergio Perez, but we'll ignore that. But it's just like you say, it's carried on. Like we've just shifted the points up. And Alonso and Hamilton really are locked in that title battle. And at this point, Alonso's won 5 races, Hamilton's won 2 races, Leclerc's won 3 races and 1 sprint, Sainz has won a sprint, Norris has won 2 races, and Piastri's won a sprint.
What a lovely season, eh? So going into the summer break, Alonso would be leading the title from Hamilton by just 19 points. So the full top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the top 7 would be Alonso on 230, Hamilton on 211, Leclerc on 151, Russell 144, Sainz 139, Norris 107, and Stroll 83. Mercedes would be leading the constructors on 355, despite not leading the drivers. Aston would be on 313, and then Ferrari would be on 290. So that's pretty close, and
close title.
Quite telling of how Lance Stroll has performed.
Yeah, you're right though. Like it is interesting that maybe when they're second, third in the title, it's not as important. But if it would literally be costing Aston Martin the Constructors' World title, I think the conversation would ramp up even more.
Absolutely, and that pretty much wraps up our imaginary season without Red Bull. Now, well done to Red Bull for doing what you're doing, because we are witnessing history. We have to appreciate just how well they have done and how badly everyone else is doing in comparison.
You're right, though. We have to commend them for an amazing season. Like I said, I read out all those different winners. And the reality is, the only winners have been Red Bull. And I think, if anything, this whole scenario shows how even more impressive Red Bull are, because you look at the changing of it's Ferrari, then it's Aston, then it's McLaren, then it's Mercedes, yet Red Bull first. They haven't changed. It just shows how even more impressive, and, you know, everyone in that team, fair play, you know, they don't have a day off. Max doesn't have a day off. They could quite easily be resting and being like, oh, you know what, we don't need to worry about pit stops because we're 20 seconds up the road, and then bam, 1.9 seconds. They're unbelievable, and they're going to like end up making history. We could quite possibly see the greatest season ever from a team.
But anyway, thank you so much, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the summer break. We will be back for lots more content. We've got predictions, and we've got reviewing our stuff that we've predicted in the past, and doing our driver ratings for the whole of the half of the season, and so on and so forth. Lots of content to come. See you very soon. Bye.
Bye.